Hey guys, Melissa here, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made this pendant. What inspired me to make this pendant was a video I made a few weeks ago. I showed you how to make chains. I made this chain with some pretty blue crystals in it. I made this pendant especially for this chain. And if you want to see how I made this pendant, just stay tuned and I'll show you how. Alright, so let's get started. So in a previous video, I made this chain, and I'll link that video above on how I made the chain. But then I have this Labradorite with a nice blue flash, so I wanted to make a pendant to go on this chain. I think this chain would complement this Labradorite really nicely, so let's go ahead and make a pendant out of this. I have 21 gauge square wire, so I think it'll be a nice size for this stone. For my bindings, I'm going to use 18 gauge half round. So the pendant I'm making today is going to have some swirly designs on the front. And that design is inspired by Elegantly Entwined on Instagram. If you haven't seen her work, go check it out. It's awesome. So depending on the size of your stone and the thickness of it will determine how many lengths of wire. This stone is pretty thin. To cage this stone, I think 3 wires thick would be sufficient, but to make the swirly design on the front, we're gonna need 4. But the 4th wire that's gonna be in front to make the swirls doesn't have to be as long. I already measured my stone and it's approximately 3 inches around. So I'm gonna multiply that by 3 at least. So the main wires will be at least 9 inches. Let's see where 9 inches takes us. So this is about 9 inches long. So you gotta determine, how much decoration you want on top and if that would be enough. So just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna pull out a foot. I'm gonna do that with 3 of the lengths, and then the swirly length, like I said, I'm gonna make shorter. And I'll mention really quick, if I'm working with sterling silver or gold filled especially, I'll write down how much I'm using of all the metals, so I can price accordingly by how much I use. So since I cut 3 feet, I'm gonna cut another, I'll probably use about 6 inches for the front wire. So 3.5 feet, and I'll also keep track of the half round I'm using as well. Next, I wanna find my center. That's the approximate center right there. I'm gonna quick clamp them with my cushion clamp, and also all my tools and materials, the list will be down in the description. Sometimes I use tape to hold these guys together, but today I'm gonna try my cushion clamp. I grabbed my 18 gauge half round. I'm gonna try to work off the spool here, so bear with me. I don't know if it's gonna work, it'll probably be too annoying. Another way you can bind your wires is weaving. You can throw on a nice weaving pattern to bind these wires together as well. It's kind of annoying working off the coil, so I'm just gonna cut it off as my wires are twisting here. Not getting them as tight as I would like. So there might be some waste, but I save all my silver scrap. I'm gonna take my clamp off. Now it's all bent. I think tape would have been the better option in this case. The amount of bindings you throw on is all determined by the shape and size of your stone. Mine's pretty wide on the bottom here, so I'm gonna put a pretty wide length of bindings. I think I'll just use the rest of this half round, snip it off there because it's not gonna make it around another time. Make sure you end your binding wires on the same side, and this will be on the inside facing your stone. Okay, so I gotta shape my wires. They're all over the place. My bindings are slipping too, so I gotta figure out the center. Let me get them straighter. Get my binding centered and also get my swirling wire centered. If your binding wires are slanted a little bit, I find that if I grab opposite corners and kind of squeeze gently, it'll help straighten them out a bit. Let's get them tightened. Next, what I want to do is I want to twist the middle of my 3 wires. For that, I'm going to use a pin vise. But if you don't have a pin vise, you can grab it with your pliers and just twist it. The pin vise makes it easier, of course. Twist until you're satisfied with the size of your twist. So as luck has it, my phone apparently ran out of storage. Luckily I noticed it in time where I didn't get too far, but I had to go back and delete some stuff, free up some space. Doesn't look like I got too far, thankfully. So what I did, I twisted both sides and I started shaping my wire around the stone. I used my fingers to shape it. Working with my fingers warms up the wire, makes it easier to bend and shape, I feel. So I've been coaxing them up, making sure my wires don't twist on me. And then I went ahead and I crisscrossed them, intertwined them, wrapped them around the stone, and I can figure out the point to bend them up. But you gotta make sure your bindings are centered. So we're gonna bend our wires up about that area right here. Of course, the front wires I'm leaving alone because those are gonna be my swirls. Just kind of putting a slight bend in them, not too extreme so I can adjust. What I like to do too at this point is use a clamp, get everybody straight, and then give them a clamp. That'll hold them in place for the time being as I'm working. I'm going to make my swirls next. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one of the sides, gently bend it over to the other side, make some swirls down low, and then this side, I'm going to keep on this side and do a swirl up high. My stone's kind of short and squat a little bit, so I got to keep that in mind, that there's not a whole lot of room to work with. So I got to kind of determine where I want to put my swirls. I got to be gentle so I don't put kinks in it. So I think I'm going to come down and make a twirl. Make a little twirl down here. A gentle squeeze. And then start gently curving it up. Take my round nose pliers, help me start curving, try to determine where I want that swirl. That looks like a good place. What you're going to do is you're going to attach them with your half round to the base wires. So you just got to figure out where you want that to be and then make your swirl. I'm going to trim mine up. I think I want to attach it there, so I'm going to start making my final swirl. I want to taper down my end a little bit. You might find that you still have too much wire and you need to trim it, but that's okay. Better to have too much than too little. So I'm going to go ahead and make my swirl right here. Take my clamp off because I think I want to tie this down before moving on. And before that we tie this down, I'm going to go in back and bend in the back wires, which help support the stone in the back. So we'll get them situated and out of the way. And to do that, I take my flat nose pliers, I'll butt it up against the bindings here, and then I twist inward And do the same thing with the other side. Grab right next to the bindings, give it a twist inward, and then I go back and forth and kind of even them out. Just like that. And then shape them up towards the bail area. So that kind of gets them out of the way. So we can go ahead and attach the swirl here. I think I'll cut off another 6 inches of half round. Actually 4 inches. And I want to bind the swirl onto these 3 base wires. Actually, it's not even a base wire. 2 base wires and the extra swirling wire. The same wire as this swirl is on. Put a bend in my binding. Smoosh that down. Okay, this one won't go all the way around, so I'm going to snip it if I can get in there. I think it's safe to take my clamp off now. Bring this guy over again. Keep a hold of everybody. Bring this guy over. If your swirl needs some adjusting, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, and now we have the rest of this wire here to make another swirl. So do you want the swirl to come around and go this way? You can do that. You can kind of bind it up here and bring it down. Or you can bring it down first and then go up. I think I'll do that. Bring it down first and then start bending it up a little by little, gently. So we don't want it to kink. Bring it down and up, down and up. Make sure it doesn't twist on you either. Down and around. Once you're satisfied with the shape and size, then you can kind of figure out where to snip your wire. And do that little by little. I'm going to snip mine there, give my end a little taper, and start twisting. That's not enough. I'm going to snip off a little more. You don't want to rush the swirl now. You want to take your time with this part. Take the clamp off and then tighten everybody up. Your stone should be nice and secure now. So I was fitting it, and on the other side here, I brought that up a little bit for some extra support. Next, I want to bind the top and make the bail. So first I want to line up all these square wires so they're not twisting or overlapping or anything like that. And first I want to make sure my stone is straight, make sure all my bindings and wires aren't twisted. Yeah, so make sure everybody's straight before you start finishing off your pendant. All right, let's go ahead and bind all these wires together. I folded over my half round a little bit and I grab on through the back. If it's too long, you can snip that later. I'm gonna go ahead and lock that down. Start winding it around. takes me a little bit to get it started. I want everybody straight and all the wires to line up. And I want it to be nice and snug. So I actually pull a little bit on that wire coming through the front just to keep everybody tight. Keep watch on everybody so nobody folds over anybody else. I'm gonna make the bail out of the front too here. So yeah, just kind of separate everybody out. And for the most part, I like my bails to be bare, but I am gonna bring this up the front of the bail just to lock these binding wires in place. I'm gonna bring them up the bail wires just for a few binds. I'm gonna cut it off where we can't see it. And bring these wires out to the side to get them out of the way. Maybe I'll cut this guy flush so it doesn't stab me. So I curve my bail. But I want to make some swirls on top, so what I'm going to do is going to bring my wires through the center here, the gap between the stone and the bail. These are wires I want to bring forward a little bit. Kind of spiraling them around each other. I want to keep my twisted wire kind of on the bottom. Kind of keep track of it. Bring that guy up, bring this guy around. Have them kind of chase each other. And I want to bring the twisted guy around. To join the other two. Kind of swing that guy down too. Now I want to start incorporating my bail wires. I'm going to bring this guy down and around to trap them. Swing them around. The bail wires are going to come through and around to the back. But you want this wire to kind of loop around it and follow it along to the back as well, to kind of disguise it. So kind of tighten up that loop. Bring these to the back, bring this guy to the back. It's hard at this point because the more you mess with the wires, the harder it is to manipulate them. So we gotta attach these guys to the back, probably on the bail wires. Go ahead and attach these one by one. I should have started with the bottom one first, to be honest. I'm putting all these nicks in my wire on purpose because next week I'm going to use this piece to show you my polishing process. So I'm going to need some wire that's a little chewed up so I can show you how I take care of that. Alright, got that swirl taken care of. These swirls, bring them around the back. We can make some decorations back here too. Alright, let me think. Go along with the swirl theme and make some swirls here. Let's get these guys at a more reasonable length. I want my round nose pliers. Wrapped around like that. Would that be legit? Would that be nice and secure? This one will bring underneath this guy. This guy, I think now that I put a big kink in it, it's gonna be too hard to deal with. So I'm just gonna tie it off. Once you put a slight bend in these guys, they're pretty much toast. None of my pieces come out the same because you never know what you're gonna get in the end. Trying to decide whether I need to tie those off more. I don't feel them. They're not moving that much. I think I might leave them. After all that, this is the scrap that I have, so that's not too bad. This big piece is half round, so I can save that. Yeah, so not too bad. Alright, so that's it for me. In next week's video, I'll show you the tools I use to take the nicks out and to polish it up. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. If you like this tutorial, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. And make sure to come back next week for the final product.